This is Louis Berard, and I'd like to introduce him. He's graciously accepted to do an interview. I'd like to just say a couple of things. Louis is the same rank as a senior instructor in Jeet Kune Do, and we started about the same time back in 1991, around January of '91. And Louis is the reason, if I have any merit, he's one of the major reasons that I'm as good as I am. I was going to ask you, how did you get into Jeet Kune Do? What's your martial arts background?
I had about approximately a 3-year traditional kung fu background, Pai Lung Kung Fu, and I moved to California. Came out as a friend of mine from the Pai Lum school, was going to school out here, and he said, "Hey, there's some old guys that know Bruce Lee training up here in Redlands," and he went up there one day. He was kind of a flaky dude, and he went up and never came back. So I went up there one day, and Jeremy was there, and we were there before class. And we started training at Tim's, and a bunch of old guys up there, Bob Bremer, Jim Sewell, Sonny Bygum, the SEAL, Bert Poe, the Marine Raider, and Dennis Blue, one of our other teachers, is probably, you know, the main influence and the main person responsibility for our ability. You know, so we got to give Dennis the props. But anyways, we started training there, and we really began to see what real efficient martial arts were about. How to move, how to hit, be efficient, not get hit. Eventually we started training with Dennis. He opened some schools. We had some fights, Muay Thai fights or kickboxing fights. We kind of had more of a, we had a, you know, a JKD background. We did a lot of hardcore, you know, hitting the Thai pad kind of training, but more with a JKD mindset. And we were successful, and not only us, but my wife had several fights and several people. So we knew that what we had and what we were learning worked, as opposed to everything else we had been exposed to. And we had people from, and I don't want to make this into I'm bagging on other arts, because there are people from other arts that I respect and I think are awesome. But I just think I think Ted Wong says it right. JKD is scientific fighting, and that's what we found out. We were like, hey, I don't have to this block and this punch or this roll or this or that. I've got this lead hand, and you know what? This gets me out of 98% of the crap that I get involved with, whether it's on the street or in the ring. It works, and I don't have to be a rocket scientist to do it, you know, fortunately for me. So anyways, that's kind of our start and how we got going. And Jeremy also, if it wasn't for Jeremy and Dennis, you know, I wouldn't be any good either, you know, probably. So
what was your first contact with Jeet Kune Do? Was it at Tim Tackett's?
It was at Tim's, yeah.
Okay. And you met Bob Bremer there. What was your reaction to meeting Bob Bremer?
I was like, not only Bob, but there was Jim and Tim, and they were all older guys. I was like, you know, 26, and these guys were in their 50s and 60s. And I'm like, what are all these old guys doing up at a martial arts place? But then when they started doing stuff, I was like, wow. Just opened my eyes, and I'm like, holy crap. I guess you gotta watch out for some old dudes. They'll ruin your day. And we learned a lot. And Bob, and at that time, the first maybe year and a half training up at Tim's, it was kind of more of a concept approach, but you could tell that Bob's influence was starting to take precedent over the whole group. And you know, Tim came around to really seeing the efficiency of what Bob had to offer. So we threw a lot of stuff out. You know, and we were kind of lucky that we were there, learned a little bit of the concept approach, but that stuff was getting thrown away while we were there, and we could agree with the process, because, you know, I think Jeremy and I and Dennis look at JKD from an analytical viewpoint. We don't think it's good because Bruce Lee did it. We think it's good because it follows scientific principles. It's a straight line. You hit rather than block. Okay, you use footwork rather than sit there and get beat up. You know, so, you know, it's a thinking man's art, and Bob really brought the simplicity of it home. And then Jim had his stories that about Bruce and training, which, you know, kind of was an extra added bonus feature, you know, which was great. So,
you ever use any of your self-defense stuff that you learned on the street?
Yeah, a few times, and it worked. And you know, Dennis always said you fight like you train. And I know one time we happened to be doing a lot of Thai boxing and a lot of Thai kicks. I mean, you know, rounds and rounds and rounds for months. So it was, my kicking anyways was in Thai boxing mode, but my hands were always, you know, intercept. And I know one reaction was I just started Thai kicking the crap out of people, and they just started falling over. And then when the guy threw a punch at me, it was automatic, boom, intercept, straight blast. So I didn't have to think about it, because we just trained these few things over and over and over. And that was the simplicity and the effectiveness of JKD. And you know, it didn't work quite that great. I'm not saying not great, but as effective in the ring, it still worked. But you know, of course, you have a better opponent, so you know the difference in our technology was a little less than some schmo on the street trying to hurt you. So, and you know, people that box and kickbox, they've got good skills, and people develop. Like you look at Saksan Janjira, who was the Northern Stadium champion before he came to the U.S., and you look at how his Muay Thai is. It's very efficient. I mean, they do straight punching up the line. His Thai kicks are really straight and fast and efficient, and it's like he has developed efficient scientific principles outside of JKD. So there are people that can do that. So when you get in the ring, you know, this fighter may be really efficient, you know, straight line, you know, quick, whatever. So you may not have the technical advantage over him. And then of course endurance, physical strength, reflexes, all those things take, you know, into account. But by and large, we've always had the advantage, just because of we're more athletic than most people, so we don't have that disadvantage. But we also had the advantage of the scientific superiority of JKD. So we, even if it was a small edge in the ring, we still had an edge, which sometimes is the only difference between winning and losing. So that was good.
Has your I guess this question is twofold. How are you approaching your training now, and has it changed any over the years compared to when you were younger?
It's definitely changed, just because my joints can't take the constant pounding, so I do a lot more punching. You know, I try to stay physically fit. You know, punching, footwork. You know, I do a lot more straight kicking rather than round kicking, because that seems to hurt my knees. But so that's pretty much it. But you know, Bob's thing of Bruce telling him, you just need a few things, you know, that you can do well. The older you get, you really start thinking about that, because you don't have the physical regenerative powers to do all this crazy stuff anymore. So it's like, hey, I can straight punch, I can stop kick, I can move, you know, I can do whatever little grappling I know, and that's all I need. If I stay in shape and I work it enough, you know, I don't have to get crazy, you know, acrobatic, you know, like I once maybe tried to do. So. First of all, it's an intercepting art. What's the intercepting art that it's based on? Fencing, okay? And then we've got 2 hands and 2 legs. Scientific fighting, you know, unless we have more than 2 hands and 2 legs, we can't fight any other way efficiently and scientifically. So you got to look at that. Boxing and fencing, a little bit of Wing Chun left over, and some streamlined kicking, you know, straight line as much as possible, power, good footwork. That's it. Boom, that's JKD. And if you don't have that foundation, it's not JKD. If you're not your strong side forward, if you're not primarily thinking intercepting. It's because the scientific principles of JKD are valid, and you know, this is faster than this. I mean, it's as simple as that. You know, intercepting is faster than covering and hitting. So that's why it works. It's good. So, but you also have to have an attitude. You also have to want to fight. You can't just be. So yes, that whole emotional content. Probably be 4 corners, straight blast, probably stop kick. That's it. Or maybe groin kick, you know. But yeah, so something like that.
Anything else?
Sounds good to me, man.
Yeah.